في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم مثل الجسد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد بالسهر والحمى. Brothers and sisters, today's hadith is a very famous hadith. At least 2, 3, 4 times during the year it's mentioned, because one of those statements of axiomatic truths of our religion. And it's narrated with the authentic chain of narration. It's a hadith sahih and in the collections of Imam Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ here is giving a descriptive statement of how believers, basically Muslims, the nation should be. So here the Prophet ﷺ says that the similitude of the believers, and when he says the mu'mineen, it means the nation, us. The similitude of believers is in regards of 3 things. And number 1, in terms of how they love each other and what they feel for each other. في توادهم, from wid. Wid is the highest level of love among Muslims. في وتراحمهم, and the amount of mercy and compassion they show each other. وتعاطفهم, and the amount of empathy they show each other, and from that aspect, the empathy they show each other. Is the similitude, is that to a one body? So the Prophet ﷺ is giving you a statement, is giving you a descriptive statement. And this is a very polite way of asking someone to do something, is by actually mentioning it. So someone who wants to, for example, to build a masjid. So you tell him mosques are big. What you're trying to tell him is that make it big. And the same thing, the Prophet ﷺ is mentioning, describing how believers should be. Basically, in a very, very diplomatic and polite way, telling us this is how you should be. So all Muslims, according to the description, should be like one body. And the alayhi salatu wasalam, it's very interesting that he shows this description, like one body. Because he could have said the similitude of Muslims is like that of one family, right? Because families are also, there's a social cohesion between the family members. But a body is actually stronger, because family members can probably live without each other. You can live without your father, you can live without your mother, you can do fine without the rest of your family. But a body is undividable. The hand cannot live without the head, and etc. So that's the description that the Prophet ﷺ has given us. إذا اشتكى منه عضو, that if one part of your body, one organ or one limb is painful, or there's an infection, or there's any problem with it, then the whole body will react with sleeplessness and with fever, etc. All the symptoms that you show when you have that. And I feel that this hadith is very appropriate during the season of Hajj. It's not directly associated with Hajj, but I feel those who've been to Hajj probably understand this. Because one of the things that the hadith is talking about is the unity, how Muslims should be unified. And no better than Hajj is to actually see that very clear in that place, on that day. You go there, there's millions of people around you, you look at faces, you would never imagine that actually Islam has reached these places. Every single ethnicity, every single language you would hear in that place. And that's not only for Hajj. Every single act of worship, there is that sense of unity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Even in your prayer, we just did a communal prayer all together. Once a week, we do Friday's prayer, which brings us together. In Ramadan also, you have the same thing. You have this unity that bring people together. And this hadith reminds me of another hadith, which I will mention very quickly. And that's how I like to understand the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is by looking at them together, not one. Because sometimes one hadith would explain the other. So the Prophet ﷺ, one day he was sitting among his companions, and he said, دَبَّ إِلَيْكُمْ دَاءُ الْأُمَمِ قَبْلَكُمْ. That the sickness, the psychological sickness of the nations before you has creeped very inconspicuously among you. And he's talking to not to us, 1400 years later. He's talking to the Sahaba, to the companions. He said, دَبَّ إِلَيْكُمْ دَاءُ الْأُمَمِ قَبْلَكُمْ الْحَسَدُ وَالْبَغْضَاءُ. Envy and hatred. البغضاء هي الحالقة. And this hadith is also very famous. البغضاء هي الحالقة. So he gives a very, very aggressive description of what بغضاء, what hatred is. He said, it's like a razor that shaves off. He said, لا أقول تحلق الشعر. I'm not talking about someone cutting his hair with a razor. I'm talking, إنما تحلق الدين, shaves off your religion. What is it? Envy and hatred. And then he continues, he said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, that he swears here by, in a very peculiar manner that he always does, that وَاللَّهِ لَا تَدْخُلْ الْجَنَّةَ وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَا تَدْخُلْ الْجَنَّةَ حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا, that you will never enter Jannah until you have perfected Iman. وَلَا تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَحَابُوا, and you will not perfect Iman until you love each other. ألا أدلكم, and then he asked them, of course the answer to it is yes. ألا أدلكم على شيء إذا فعلتوه أو يثبت لكم ذلك أفشوا السلام بينكم, spread peace among you. A lot of people understand this as أفشوا السلام is like salutation, السلام عليكم, السلام عليكم. That could be one meaning, but I like to believe, I like to understand in the deeper meaning that أفشوا peace among you. And peace is tawad and ta'atuf and tarahum and all these qualities and characteristics that we should have. There's here in London I'm an optimistic person by nature. I think we are actually united in what we feel, at least. Now, what we say and what we do, there's the disagreement. But I think as Muslims, we all want the same thing. I don't think there's as a bulk, as a 1.8, 1.7 billion, we all mostly want the same thing. But I think actions is where we have a lot of disagreement. And this is something long that I would leave it here. يروي الإمام مسلم في صحيحه عن النعمان بن بشير رضي الله تعالى عنه وارضاه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مثل المؤمنين في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم مثل الجسد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد بالسهر والحمى. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك لا